Philadelphia, get ready to be inspired. If you need help finding the light in the darkness, don't touch that dial. Let's navigate life through the lens of hope with Scotty P. Inspirational speaker Scotty P speaks the importance of mental health in society and encourages techniques to overcome the everyday mental health obstacles that hold us back in life. It's not just inspiration, it's Scotty P Inspiration.
Good evening, Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Scotty P Inspiration Show today with your host, myself, Scotty P, aka Scott Prendergast. Thank you all so much for being here today, and a special thanks for all those nationwide who are listening via YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. Thank you all for being here today and for starting your weekend with me so that we can help you to navigate life through the lens of hope. And remember, it's not just inspiration. You know, it already is Scotty P Inspiration today. So everybody, happy Friday, happy weekend. So thankful you all could be here today. So before we get started, I want to take care of a little bit of business real quick. If you want to watch any of the past episodes of the show, a couple ways you could do it. You could go on www.dbam.com, search the show, watch it that way. You could go on my YouTube channel, which is Scotty P Inspiration, watch it that way. Go on Spotify or any major podcast platform, search Scotty P Inspiration Show and find it that way as well. So everybody, as you all know, I like to just jump into things. I like to get it started because I want you to be able to take something from this show and apply it to your life right now in a way that's going to help you to work through whatever it is that you're feeling and dealing with right now, okay? So for those of you who are new, the way that I like to do this is I like to start with a quote. I start with a quote and then we go off from there, we take it from there. So for today, my quote is a simple one. It's a simple one, and it's actually a quote that I have said multiple times through different speaking engagements that I've had. So the quote is as followed. If it wasn't for my own dark days, how in the world would I be able to help anyone else escape theirs? Simple. If it wasn't for my own dark days, how in the world would I be able to help anyone else escape theirs? A very simple quote, something that I've said in reference to a lot of the different presentations I do, yet I think it's very powerful. And today, what I really want to talk about for this episode is talking about those quote unquote dark days in our lives and how that is a part of the process. Because when I say dark days, immediately there's going to be some people who are like, I don't want to talk about it, right? Because dark days bring dark emotions, which bring dark feelings, which sometimes we can find can be difficult to get out of, right? But what I really want to make the listener know today is that dark days, this is all part of the process, right? It's not something where every single day in life is going to be, hey, all happy and joyous. That's just not how this works. I don't know where that notion that people think it's supposed to be like that came from. But last I checked, that's not how this thing works, and nobody promised that, okay? So I want to talk about how these dark days that we all deal with, because every single one of us are going to deal with it. Even that person who you think has everything going right, they're going to deal with this too. We're going to talk about these days. We're going to talk about how it's part of the process, how to move through it, how to stay hopeful and stay inspired during those times too, okay? So one of the things I want to start with today is kind of talking about just emotional pain. You know, a lot of times I think when you say the word pain, people mostly associate it with physical pain. But I think emotional pain can be the one that's even more serious and is the one that has a bigger driving factor in our lives, right? Because if you break your arm, yeah, sure, you're sidelined for a couple months, but that goes back and you're good. Emotional pain is stuff that can linger for a lifetime, right? And so this pain that we all feel is different, but emotional pain is universal. It's something that nobody can escape, that every single person is going to deal with at some point in their life. But what's important for people to remember is that it's not the pain that defines you. It's about what you do in the middle of that pain that will determine your outcome. I'll say that again. It is not the pain that defines you, but rather it's about what you do in the middle of that pain that will determine your outcome. Because we're all going to experience emotional pain. We're all going to experience sadness, difficulty. Some of us will experience depression. Some of us won't. Some of us will experience super, super drastic mood swings where we're in a really dark place. We're all going to experience emotional pain. So the only question then is, how are you going to handle it? What are you going to do when it happens? Some examples for you. A lot of times in a lot of our lives, when that pain comes about, we tend to shut down. And you may feel that you have every reason to shut down. I hear this all the time with people I talk about, almost looking for this validation of their pain. Like, oh yeah, if you've been through what I went through, or if you knew what happened to me, you'd be feeling like this too. I'd be like, look, You need to understand what happened to you, and that pain is already valid. You don't need to get my approval or anyone else's approval for that pain because it happened to you, and that is enough to make it real and to make it valid. But the problem that so many of us have is that when we get in that pain, we stay in it and we use it as like a weapon, so to speak, and we wield it around saying, look what I've been through. You can't tell me this because I went through that. And you wear this pain like a badge of honor, even though you're embarrassed of it, yet you tell everyone about it before anything else because you're allowing that pain to define you. You're allowing that pain to define you. And that's where we had it wrong. That pain might be part of you. That pain happened to you. It is in your life. You have to acknowledge it. You cannot ignore it. You cannot suppress that pain because suppression always leads to regression. You must acknowledge it, but it doesn't stop there. That is only the first part. Then what are you going to do when you're in it, and how are you going to get out of it? And don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about that today on the show. But it is important to understand that this pain, do not let it define you. Do not let it define a moment in your life. Do not let it define anything about you because you are more than something that is just a part of you that is temporary. And I think there's a lot to be said about that too. That pain that you feel is temporary. And I hear the chatter, I hear the static saying, well, Scott, you don't know my situation. You're darn right I don't know your situation. But I would ask you to do something. Look back on your life at the different painful things you've experienced. Did you not make it through? All right, that's right, you did. And we need to remember that sometimes. And we got to remind ourselves that yes, it feels like eternity. Yes, it feels like forever. Yes, it feels like we'll never get through it. But we will and we do. It's just about the process of how. And that's where I come in. That's where my life coaching comes in. That's where my speaking engagements come in. That's where people like me do this so that we can help you with the how. Right? Because that's the most difficult part. Is finding how do I get through this, especially when you have one of those moments in your life or times or seasons where you just feel like you're getting bow, just Rocky in the Ring by Drago, just getting absolutely Detroit Pistoned every single round by these different obstacles in life. When you feel like that, whew, that's where you got a decision, my friend. And I think a lot of times what's sad is that decision, some of us take the wrong route. We make the wrong decision there and we decide to give up and stay in that pain and become bitter and jaded and allow that pain to completely use us like a puppet and just do whatever it wants us to do and start using that pain as a weapon to push others away. And friends, we do not want to do that. I know too many people in my life who live their lives that way, and I made a decision when I was younger that I never would be that way because I saw what it did to them and I don't want that to be me, so I don't want that to be you. Because I think there's a lot of reason to have hope and joy in this world if you're willing to look in the right places for it. Right places for it. And so many of us are looking in the wrong places for it. You know, if I'm looking for my hope and joy in the news, bruh, I must be like, I'm never going to be happy. Right? Or if I'm looking at my hope and joy from the validations from other people, I will never be happy either. Or if I'm looking for validation of my pain from everyone else, I'm also never going to be happy because there's always going to be someone who says they have it worse or has a more dramatic story. Right? And so these are some of the things that we do. And then when we get that negative result that we don't want from doing this, we go back into our shell and we fester and we stew in that pain even more and we get even more stagnant with it and it becomes even more difficult to break. So we want to flip the script and we want to start trying to find something good within it, instead of looking at just the surface level emotional pain. So I think that's really important. And what I also think is to kind of go off of that is we need to adjust the lens of how we're expecting life to be. Again, this whole notion, and I don't know if we've all watched too many movies or Disney things or read too many stories where there are these happy endings all the time. I think happy endings are there. I believe in happy endings. I've seen happy endings. But it's not just, and then they lived they lived happily ever after and nothing else ever happens. You know, there's a lot of pain in this real life that goes along with that in the process to get to that. And I feel like we have this idea that we'll go through life and we'll just check all the boxes of the things that we wanted to do and the great things that happened to us. And we'll just be like, yeah, look what I did. Look at my resume of how great I am and all the things I've accomplished. Bruh, We need to change that mindset and understand that, yes, we will get those things. We will accomplish those things. But to get those things, to accomplish that happiness, we're going to have to go through a lot of difficult times, a lot of sad times, a lot of hard times. But the Disney movies don't show that. But the fairy tales don't show that. They have one page where someone's like, and then Willie struggled, but then he made it out the other side. That's the short version. Let me dive in there and say, here's how Willie struggled. He dealt with depression. He lost his closest friends. His house got foreclosed on him. He lost both his parents in a fire. This or that happened, blah, blah, blah. No, it doesn't talk about that. It just says, and then Willie struggled. But then he got through it. We can't keep skipping out on the details in our lives and then expecting that everything's going to be all jolly all the time because some book in 4th grade was like that. Yes, you will get that happiness. Yes, you will see it. Yes, you will find it. But sometimes you find that happiness in the middle of a very difficult, dark time. And maybe that dark time doesn't totally go away, but yet you're still able to find happiness within it. Did anyone ever think of that? Did any of the Disney movies ever say that? Did any of these childhood books ever say that? Because the reality is happiness doesn't wait. It's a feeling. It comes and it goes. But so do dark days. They come and they go too. And believe it or not, sometimes happiness and joy can coexist with dark days. It's just about which one you're choosing to focus on and which one you're putting your attention and effort and energy towards. And that's a question that I can't answer you. You have to be introspective and look at your own life that way. But I'm a true believer that if we start to understand, yes, life's going to be difficult. I'm ready for it. I'm going to acknowledge it. I know it's going to be tough at times, but I will keep moving forward. I think when we have that mindset, when we know that, we're not as, oh my gosh, shocked when something bad happens. This wasn't in Cinderella's Blow. This wasn't in a Disney movie. Okay? You're darn right it wasn't in a Disney movie, but this is real life here. So we want to acknowledge that something's going on. We're accepting it. We're saying, I'm allowing myself to feel this. This isn't great, but I'm not going to stop here. It's not going to end here. My story does not end here. There's more to it. This is one part, one chapter, one page even, not the whole novel. So I'm going to accept it. I'm going to move forward. And my goodness, I'm going to find something good about it too. Take that for the childhood books, right? Understand that, listeners. I really, really hope that you can and flip that script, change that lens. It makes a big difference. It really does. Not saying it's easy. No, but it is doable. And I think when you do that, you'll be able to see some happiness that you couldn't have seen any other way, that would have otherwise gone unnoticed. And that's a pretty cool thing, okay? So one of the ways that I like to put it before we got about a minute before we go to break is I like to look at these difficulties and these dark days, these challenges, as if it's a time for me to level up in my life. I kind of look at it like it's a video game, right? Think about it. When you're in the video games, you get to a new level. It's always like super difficult. And they're like, oh my goodness, how do I beat this thing? You try like 20 times, you keep failing, right? But if you kept just beating the easy levels all the time, you wouldn't get to the new achievements. You wouldn't beat the game. You wouldn't get the gold things or this or that, right? You wouldn't get that stuff. So in the same way in life, when these challenges, when these difficulties come about into our lives, that means, okay, it's either time to level up or I'm in the process of leveling up, which is going to lead to something better. But we've got to understand that to get something better, sometimes we got to go through something that hurts a little bit more. And again, we don't like to feel that hurt. We expect it's all going to be great all the time. We got to know that, okay, good things are coming. I'm going to go through some difficult things too to make sure I'm ready for that, to make sure that I'm in the right mindset for that, to make sure I can handle that. So leveling up. Think about that next time you're in a difficult spot. Say, okay, I'm in the process of leveling up. I'm going forward. I'm there. I'm not going to stop here. I'm not going to quit the game. I'm not going to rage quit. I'm going to keep going, and I will get through it because I'm leveling up right now. And that means I'm making progress. So everybody, we got so much more to talk about. I love this topic. I'm doing some things out here. I'm really excited about this. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We're going to be right back after these quick commercial breaks.
Hey everyone, Eric Katz here, the owner of Katz Dogs Canine. Are you working from home and need to get your dog out running around for the day? Will you be traveling this summer and looking for a place to board your pup? Is your dog looking a little shaggy and need a haircut or bath? Are you looking forward to walking around and enjoying this beautiful weather, but you can't because your dog's pulling like a freight train? Well, you're in luck. We are a one-stop shop that focuses on daycare, boarding, grooming, and training. We are located at 35 Middle Road, Percy, PA, on 10 beautiful acres. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram at CatsDogsCanine or our website, catsdogscanine.com. Our phone number is 855-CATS-DOG, 855-528-9364.
What's going on, everyone? This is Scott Prendergast here, aka Scotty P. Real quick, I want to talk to you about my business. It's called Scotty P Inspiration. And what I am is I'm an inspirational speaker, and I want to help others navigate life through the lens of hope. Now, I do this through speaking engagements, but also one-on-one life coaching. So if you're interested in booking me or doing some of that coaching, let me know. Check me out at www.scottypinspiration.com or check out my Instagram at scottyp_inspo. Find Yourself Boxes was created to foster the connection between a person and those in life who may be working through mental health challenges by providing curated and customizable boxes filled with research-backed wellness products that promote healing. Coupling personal experience with professional mental health guidance, Find Yourself Boxes meets people where they are on their journey. Wellness doesn't look the same for every person, and these products are packaged together to touch various aspects of our wellness spectrum. Find your healing with Find Yourself Boxes at findyourselfboxes.com, and you can get 20% off your first purchase. And welcome back, everybody, to the Scotty P Inspiration Show. I am your host, Scott Prendergast, aka Scotty P. Thank you for joining us today on this Friday evening. Thank you for getting your weekend started with us today. And just a quick reminder, if you want to watch past episodes, you can search my show, the Scotty P Inspiration Show, on any major podcast platform or on www.dbam.com, or go on YouTube as well and search Scotty P Inspiration. So everybody, if you are just joining us today, we're talking about some really good stuff here. I'm talking about the dark days of our lives and how that is part of the process and how we can acknowledge it, but how we don't get stuck in it and we keep moving forward, okay? So, as you know I like to do, I'm going to jump right into it. So let's go. Let's continue. I think we got a lot of really good stuff for the second part of the show here to talk about. What I want to open up with here in the second part of the show is I want to ask you something. Now, you know that I love making this show listener-centric. So what I want you to think about is this. I will say, what is your attention and focus on? Is your attention and focus on the pain in your life or the progress in your life? Simple question. Are you focusing on the pain that you feel, emotional pain that you feel, or the progress that you've made? Which one are you focusing on? Okay, and I really want you to ask yourself that and think about it. And I want you to be honest with yourself. I don't want you to be like, oh yeah, I'm focusing on progress. You know me, Scotty P. I'm always out here doing what I need to do. Yeah. I want you to be honest. Okay? Now, it's not a problem. It's not a bad thing. You're not going to get scolded or in trouble or canceled if you say, oh, Scott, I've been focusing on the pain. No, it's normal. So many of us do. You know, and I could get into the science of the brain and why we have a tendency to focus on some of the negative things because of how we're wired, but that's for another episode. Okay, but what I will say is this. Which one of those two that we focus on is going to determine the actions that we take and the outcomes that we see. Because if we're focused on the pain and the emotional pain in our lives, we're going to take actions that are going to reflect that feeling and that are going to reflect our belief about ourselves, right? And that's going to continue to keep us in this vicious cycle of continuing to ruminate and stew and stay in that dark place. Now, on the other hand, if we're focusing on our progress and giving our progress the attention, we're going throughout our day with a whole new lens. We're looking at this day with maybe some gratitude, with maybe some thankfulness for, hey, wow, I used to be here. I'm still not where I want to be, but at least I'm not there, right? At least I could do this. And that sparks a little bit of hope. When you look back and see where you once were and as opposed to where you are now, that gives you hope to say, man, look at myself. I could do this. I can do some things. I can make some plays. I can move past trauma. I can move past difficulty. I can move past these dark times. That doesn't mean you're out of it. It doesn't mean you're never going to see it again. But when you remind yourself of where you've been, it helps you to get somewhere new and somewhere that you haven't gone because you know not to repeat the same things that led you to where you were. Okay? So I ask you again, not just today, but the whole weekend, what is your attention on, the pain or the progress? The answer to that question is going to change a lot for you. And it's going to change a lot of the outcomes you see, okay? And to kind of build off of that, one of the things that I like to say a lot that can be unpopular, like what I'll say here is not a sexy thing to say. It's not do this and in 5 years you will have 3 Bentleys, 7 houses, and 14, you will own 10 different continents, even though there are only 7. Whoa, right? And we kind of hear this from people in my field. They make these empty promises of, I'm going to give you 5 ways to change your life. And if you do this, I guarantee by tomorrow you will have 7 figures in your bank account. And every time I hear that, I'm just like, bruh, like, stop giving us a bad rep, okay? Stop giving inspirational and motivational speakers that generic rep, because I can't stand it. My approach is a little bit different. I'm big on acknowledging our pain, and I'm big on not ignoring it and trying to act like it's not there by covering it up with fake positivity, because I don't think that works at all. It's like trying to, I don't know, paint over neon green sign. That's, I don't know where I'm going with it. Bottom line, it's not something that's good, okay? But what I'm going to say that's not popular is this. Sometimes we got to sit in that pain a little bit longer. Sometimes we got to stay in that pain, in that difficult season, a little bit longer. Now, notice here, though, this isn't all the time. That's not me saying, oh, Scott said he gives me permission to just stay in my pain and just do whatever I want and say it's everyone else's fault. And oh my goodness, I guess I'm just going to be like this forever. Well, Scotty P Inspiration said it. What I mean is that sometimes we're so quick to get out, to just rush to take the first opportunity to get out of that pain, that we end up taking something or doing something or going with an opportunity that is actually way worse for us because of our desperation to get out of that feeling of negativity or sadness. And then when we take that thing or do that thing or go to that place, we find out that it's not a fix and we end up even further in a difficult spot because of it. So sometimes when there are certain seasons in your life where you are just struggling, you keep doing everything you can to get out of it. You never stop. And I'm big on that. You never stop. You always keep moving. But sometimes when you've done everything that you can and you're still in that spot, sometimes you got to say, okay, you know what? Maybe I need to be here a little bit longer so that I can develop something greater in me or something greater in my life, or some opportunity will come from this later because of what I'm learning now. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves of that. And I know that nobody wants to stay in emotional pain. My goodness, I think it's one of the worst things in the world. When you're really struggling emotionally in pain, there's not too much worse than that, because it really is like a prison that just traps your mind and every thought with it too. And it's so hard. And as you see an opportunity that could potentially get you out of it, it's like, oh my gosh, yes. But we got to be wary. We got to be cautious sometimes. Because just like that motivational speaker that promises a Bentley after 2 days of using their 5-step process, it's not always what it seems. So to my listeners today, for some of you, it's time to come out of that struggle place. It is time to spread those wings and get out of there. For others of you, there's still a little bit more that you need to learn while you're in that place. And maybe that opportunity is not there yet for you to get out of it, but trust that it will be there. It will. But maybe just not right now. And if that's your case, you dig around in that dirt and you find those little hidden gems and you hold on to those things and you let those hidden gems have their work in you to become the person that you need to be. You hear me when I tell you that? Because I'm telling you that. Okay? That's super important to know. Do not for a second, think that you're going to be there forever, because you will not be. But you might need to be there just a little bit longer than you are now. But that is not the end. That is merely just another step towards getting out of it. So remember that today, listeners, and take heart and be encouraged with that, okay? So as we get towards the end of the show here, we still got a few more minutes. I'm excited about that. What I said before, I believe before we went to the break, was I talked about how I've believed difficulties and emotional pain, I view it as a time that it's time for me to level up. It's time for me to get to that next level. It's time for something new to come into my life. That's why I got to go through some of these difficulties, right? I always think of it too, that when we're in those difficult spots, it's like we're unlocking new resiliency. And I speak about resiliency. That's one of my main topics. I'll go into businesses or schools. I'll talk about how to be resilient. And part of me is always shocked when I have to do this, because some people literally do not know how to be resilient. And I don't know how that's possible. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad, because it gives me a job and a career and money. But at the same time, it's like Resiliency is within the human nature. We as humans are resilient beings. But I think sometimes we get so consumed and so obsessed with this idea that everything should go right and be perfect for us that we forget how to be resilient and we just stay stuck. And it's really, it is very quite, it's sad. It really is, because to see somebody such as a person who is built to be resilient and to just not exercise that at all is sad. You know, because resiliency is a muscle. It's essentially a muscle. It has to be exercised. It has to be used. It has to be practiced in order to get stronger so that you can develop greater resiliency to get through more difficult problems. And I'm a big believer that in this life, the older we get, the further we get along, there are more difficult problems ahead. But if we don't overcome the first problem, the first challenge, the first pain, how in the world is our resiliency going to be strengthened enough to then overcome the next challenge later? Right? So we're out here with a level 1 resiliency and we're trying to deal with level 12 problems. And then we're sitting here and wondering, well, why didn't it work out? Why couldn't I get past it? Couldn't get past it because you didn't get past the 14 other levels before that, because you're still stuck on level 1 because you're stewing in what didn't go right or how it's not fair for you to be where you're at. Now I'm being real with you today. Okay? Your resiliency needs to be exercised, need to be practiced. So if you're in a difficult spot right now, flip that script and say, okay, today, this is a chance to exercise my resiliency. I'm not going to like it. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be glorious. I'm not going to post an Instagram live about, I'm exercising my resiliency and I just feel great. No, it's probably going to be terrible. But my goodness, you're going to grow. You're going to get better. Your resiliency is going to strengthen. And the next thing you know, you'll be past that obstacle. The next thing you know, you'll be past the next one after that. You know, but you got to give yourself a chance to build that resiliency before you can tackle some of these really big giants in your life, right? So let's remember, listeners, that resiliency is something that is going to take time. Yes, we are born with it. I believe that. But at the same time, we do have to practice it and exercise it and develop it. And what better opportunity to practice and develop your resiliency than a difficulty in your life? And I'm not saying I'm there yet, because I'm not, but I've gotten better to where when I see an obstacle, I'm able to say, okay, this is great. I'm going to be a lot more resilient because of this. It's not always easy to do. And I'm not saying I do it all the time, because I don't, but I'm aware of it a little bit more now. So instead of that sting of, oh man, this is a tough time, that sting is still there, but it's cushioned a little bit by, okay, well, I know I'm going to get a lot better in so-and-so avenue of my life because of this. Right? And so much of our life is mindset and how we view things and the lens in which we do that. Right? And this is a prime example of that. And so listeners, I really hope you could take that away from this today, okay? So we're pretty much wrapping up here. Last thing I want to say is this, and we're going to end with this. Look, we cannot control when pain happens to us. We can't. It's going to be there. It's always going to be there till the day that we leave this earth. It'll be there. But what we can control is our perspective and how we choose to view that pain and what we're going to do in the midst of that pain. And remember that. For you, the listener today, if you're struggling, you hold on. You keep moving forward. Don't you dare stop or sit in that pain and say it's never going to get out of it. No, you will. But in the meantime, you got to hold on and know that your resiliency is being developed for greater and better things. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your weekend. This is Scotty P signing off.